If the strategy which we have established is maintained, and the battle not halted by change in the midst of action, we shall win.
When Herbert Hoover ran for president in 1928, the Republican Party promised Americans a chicken for every pot. What the GOP was really saying was that the recent uptick in American prosperity was here to stay.
Back in the 1930s, when Tyson Foods got into business, chicken was like a luxury meat. It was like lobster, you know? You had chicken on Sunday night.
But when Tyson got in the game, it streamlined production and prices fell year by year.
Skin texture. Did you know that poultry is the nation's third largest agricultural crop? A $3 billion business? Pretty chicks? Yes, sir.
This animal happened to be very adaptable to the conditions of industrial production. You could stack the eggs on trays, you could heat them and raise literally millions of chicks.
Do the chickens miss scratching in the barnyard? Probably not. They've never known any other life but this.
You could pack them into crates and then put them in a building where the temperature was controlled perfectly and the feed was formulated perfectly to make these animals gain as much weight as possible in as little time as possible. They've got automated feeders, automated watering systems. I mean, we're really talking about mid-sized food factories.
The chicken of tomorrow, a broad-breasted bird with bigger drumsticks, plumper thighs, and layers of white meat. Yes, sir. Make mine chicken.
Chris Leonard spent nearly a decade reporting on agribusiness for the Associated Press. His book, The Meat Racket, exposed the dark side of America's food business.
The thing that struck me was how overwhelmingly powerful this company was. In this town of Waldron, there was an enormous Tyson Foods chicken plant that processed about 1 million birds a week. Out in the hillsides around it, you had dozens of farmers all working under contract for this company. You know, we think about farmers as this stubbornly independent bunch, but what I saw when I went down there was overwhelming and pervasive fear. People were afraid to talk to me as a reporter in their front yard on a farm in the middle of nowhere. I just thought to myself, how could one firm have so much power over this entire region? And you know, the story behind that is the story of corporate consolidation and the rise of monopolies. And Tyson Foods has been behind that story for decades.
At Tyson, we're doing our best.
Golden, crispy Tyson chicken chunks.
Just for you.
Today, Tyson Food is the leading producer of chicken, beef, and pork, controlling as much as 20% of the market. In the U.S., it's estimated 1 in every 5 bites of meat is of an animal owned by Tyson.
The majority of the meat that Tyson Foods sells doesn't carry a label. This is the meat that we eat at cafeterias, in schools, out at restaurants, in nursing homes, the rotisserie chicken at the grocery store.
Tyson continues to find new ways to help put a chicken in every pot.
The industrialization of livestock farming has been cruel to the animals, but it's also had a devastating impact on the farmers.
These farmers who are working as sharecroppers in a way for the company, they don't really own anything.
You go to a town that produces Tyson chicken and you see that this company operates the slaughterhouse, the feed mill, the bird hatchery, the trucking lines that moves the baby chicks to the farm and the grown birds back to the slaughterhouse. And then it operates the very sophisticated marketing arm of the business that sells these products directly to fast food chains like McDonald's or Wendy's. Tyson was one of the first companies to really bring all these parts of the business under one roof. And that gave it not just tremendous control, but it allowed it to really reap all the profits at every link in the chain.
While innovation and buyouts fueled Tyson's growth, another big push came from the U.S. government through antitrust laws.
This is the body of law that governs how big companies can get. It's not like supply and demand determine the price of something anymore. It's the market power of the monopoly. And the monopolies use this power to underpay people for what people give them, in this case, farmers raising animals. And then the monopoly uses the power on the flip side to raise prices for consumers. That's why we have antitrust laws. But when you saw the Reagan Revolution come along, there was this school of thought that all that mattered was the consumer price. And so they took off the shackles and they let companies buy out their competitors. The federal government allowed merger after merger after merger after merger until the monopolies had taken total control. What you see is the industrialization of chicken farming now gets coupled with a monopolistic control of just one or two companies. What it has meant for farmers is an absolute and total loss of control over their operations.
Nowhere is this more apparent than in the company's so-called tournament system, where Tyson ranks its chicken producers by how well they fatten up their birds.
I've never seen anything like this in over 20 years of covering American business. Here's how it works. What Tyson does is it collects all of the birds from all of the farms in a given week, and then it measures each farm on how well the farmer managed to fatten up the birds given the feed that Tyson provided. Critically, what Tyson then does is it ranks all of the farmers in a given week against one another. The farmers at the top are paid a bonus. But critically, that bonus payment is taken out of the paycheck of the farmer at the bottom of the ranking. So they compete against each other with each paycheck and divide and conquer, and it works. I met farmer after farmer after farmer who explained to me how the price they received for a cow, for a pig, or for a chicken had nothing to do with how hard they worked. It had everything to do with how much power Tyson Foods had over their operation.
Tyson doesn't just have power over the choices its farmers make. It exercises power over your own decisions in the grocery store, whether you know it or not.
Let's say you go into a grocery store and walk into the meat aisle. You will see these beautiful displays of dozens of different products and dozens of different brand names. And it really gives you this perception that you've got a lot of consumer choice. I think that's what we think of when we think about capitalism. The reality is about 4 companies control the entire meat aisle of any given grocery store. The consumer has lost the ability to vote with their dollar. So right now, the entrenched monopolies are absolutely winning the political fight.